Thank you very much. It's a real honour. The cheque will be paid into the Girls' Fund of Plan UK. It's the money bit of the Because I Am a Girl campaign. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Plan. Maybe some of you have not heard of this fantastic organisation. I'm going to tell you a lot more about Because I'm a Girl. And we can hold Malala in our thoughts throughout. Plan works in 50 developing countries. It is day by day lifting children out of poverty into a life of opportunity. It's been working with children for 76 years. Its birthday was this week, actually, 20th of March. And it currently impacts on the lives of 56 million children. When I heard that, I said, how did you count that number? And they do have ways of counting and knowing how many children and young people are being affected and whose lives are being improved by their work through projects, through advocacy, in all manner of ways. And education for both boys and girls is the key. It's their passport to fulfilling their opportunities, their potential. And it's each child that counts, individual children. So when we talk about 56 million children, that is 56 million individuals, just like your children, or just like you were when you were young. And my own connection to Plan is very personal. I am a sponsor, because it's a child sponsorship organisation. So my family sponsor children in Zimbabwe. I'm also a speaker and an ambassador on behalf of Plan, and I'm a volunteer. When I can get there, I go in hopefully once a week, and I work in a unit there which deals with supporters. But my special connection is that it was my father, the late John Langdon-Davies, that founded Plan in 1937. During the Spanish Civil War. My father was a writer and a journalist, and he had lived in Spain during the 20s, and he'd fallen in love with the country. And for him to go back as a war correspondent, when he was a pacifist anyway, and loathed violence, and to see the country that he loved torn apart, it was bombed, the violence, the hatred. Not much changes. We're seeing the same sort of thing now in Syria. And it broke his heart. And he very quickly started taking medical aid into Spain, fundraising, telling people about it, writing about Spain and the Civil War. He thought the war was an atrocity, a human tragedy. And he did whatever he could, including writing a book within 6 weeks, to try and challenge the Non-Intervention Pact. And what upset him most was seeing the children, thousands and thousands of children that were just living on the streets of Spanish cities. They were lost, they were separated, orphaned, they were very vulnerable. And this is what happens when you have a mass migration. There were people flooding up from the south of Spain in advance of Franco's troops, trying to get away from the violence, coming up that coastal road through from Malaga up to Valencia and up to Barcelona, trying to get maybe into France or just away. And when you have a mass migration, with that migration, the children lose everything. They lose the security of their own home, they often lose their families, and of course they lose their education. And there they were, on the streets of cities that probably many of us know well now. And he described how you would see them being taken off hand in hand, a little crocodile of children, tiny little children, to shelter for a night, maybe in a cinema or a sports hall. And yes, they would be sheltered and they'd be fed maybe. And then the next day, out again into whatever lay in store for them. The Catalan Generalitat had given over large palaces and private homes and set up colonies for children to be sheltered in and looked after. But my father came up with the idea in the winter of 36-37 of setting up colonies, as they were called then, children's homes, and getting funding from US and UK, people in the US and the UK, who would fund this care for the children, but at the same time they would be foster parents, and each foster parent would write and communicate and send photos and best wishes and think about an individual child. And so this is how sponsorship, or child sponsorship, began. So that each child that was being looked after in a planned colony would know that someone, somewhere, was thinking about them. And for them in this time of crisis and loss of absolutely everything, my father felt that this was vital and something that would give back to each child, something intangible. It worked. The children were looked after. There were 2 colonies set up straight away, and then more colonies followed suit. They were fed, they were sheltered, and they were educated. But they also knew that someone, somewhere, was thinking of them as an individual. And this idea of each child not being a number, not being another batch of 10 or 20 to be looked after, but an individual, is key and is at the centre of everything that Plan has done. And over 75 years, Plan has grown into a global organisation, a charity with children at the centre of absolutely everything that we do. Child-centred community work now. The move away from children's homes, which continued still after the Second World War. During that time, Plan was, of course, dealing with not just Spanish children, but children from all over Europe, and they were now being looked after in England and some in the US. Many of the Jewish children were looked after by Plan, but also children from all around Europe. And post-war, there was a home opened up in Italy for children who had lost limbs as a result of the fighting. So, it's grown. It's just this enormous organisation now, but still with children at the centre of everything. And educating both girls and boys is absolutely fundamental to secure their future promise, all that potential. Malala knows this. She knows it as well as all of you, and that I do. And she has fought for girls' educations. She blogged for, I think, 2 to 3 years before the events of last autumn. And she spoke out, and she attended school. But there are millions of girls who are not in school, and they're missing out on their education. And the trouble is that girls face far greater barriers to their education than boys. Of course there are barriers to boys' education as well in developing countries. But for girls, these barriers are complex. They're very deep-rooted. They're very difficult to take down and demolish. And that is why, for the last 7 years, Plan has been running this campaign, Because I Am a Girl. When I first heard that, I thought it was a grammatical mistake. I didn't quite get it. But Because I'm a Girl is working to raise awareness of the issues surrounding girls' education and to help thousands of girls, so far thousands, into education. One of the things that the Because I'm a Girl campaign does is produce a report, an annual report. It's a big, thick book, and it is packed with all of the data, all of the statistics, all of the graphs, all of the knowledge, the nitty-gritty that tells us what the state of girls is today across the world. They interview girls. The girls' voices are heard. and their brothers' voices as well, and their families, and their communities. And each year will be a different theme. So it could be girls in the city, girls with new technology. It could be boys. Last year it was boys. Because I'm a girl is actually, and this is what I didn't quite get at the beginning when I first saw the slogan, it's the answer to a lot of nasty, ugly questions. Why am I not fed as much as my brothers? And I'm malnourished, and I'm smaller, and I'm hungrier because I'm a girl. Why am I not educated like my brothers? Because I'm a girl, and it's not so important to educate me. Why am I married off while I'm still a child? A forced or early marriage? Because I'm a girl. It's culturally appropriate. And why do I give birth while I'm still a child myself and give birth to another malnourished, smaller child that will probably fail to thrive? Because I'm a girl. An educated girl is less likely to be forced into an early marriage. She will be healthier. She's less likely to catch HIV. Her children will be stronger, they'll be bigger, and they will thrive, and they are more likely to be educated in turn. An educated girl is more likely to be economically active and give more to her own family and community. And above all of this, an educated girl is more likely to have her voice, the voice that we need to listen to, the voice in her own family, the voice in her local community, and a voice in her society. And the Girls' Fund is the fund associated with Because I Am a Girl. It has helped girls into education by dismantling some of these barriers through advocacy, through events, changing attitudes, sometimes on the ground, with just the parents, just to change their attitudes, their own daughters' education. But sometimes the community leaders, governments, lawmakers, whoever. They take a practical approach too. There's some very successful projects where girls are allowed to play football and join a team only if they go to school. They go to school. They make the time. They see a reason and they play football. Or other girls who are given food parcels by plan for their entire family if they attend school. They have to attend school for a minimum number of days and then they get a food parcel. Then they'll get another one. And suddenly, mum and dad realise this is quite a good thing and they allow their daughter to go to school. And then they realise how good this all is, that the child is being educated just the same as the brothers, and that there is a future for her, different to the one that they had envisaged. It could be something as simple as providing separate latrines at a school so that a girl's modesty can be preserved. This is very important. They won't go to school if they feel embarrassed and they can't go to a separate private area. So it could be simple solutions while at the same time dealing with the lawmakers and the governments. And another key aspect of getting girls into education has been an earlier campaign and a consistent campaign by Plan, which is Learn Without Violence. Teacher training. Asking teachers to teach without hitting their pupils, and certainly without sexual abuse or the exchange of sex for grades. Malala was actually quite fortunate in her background, because I think it's an educated one, and her father was pro-education for girls, which is quite unusual. On your tables, you've got a card from Plan, and it has a picture. It looks like this. And this is a picture of a girl called Noha from Niger. She wasn't quite so lucky in that here she is in this picture, aged 14, and the picture was taken on the day of her marriage to a man more than twice her age that she'd never met. So on this day, Noha's future closes down. There's no more education. She will have left her family and all the security and everything that she knew about and gone off to live with her new husband's family, where she will have to work in the home, looking after the animals, fetching water, hard physical work. And of course she won't have a job and she won't have any education at all. Within a year, she'll have a baby, and that baby will be the product of a child. Noha is the type of girl that Malala stands up for. Perhaps you'd be kind enough to sign the card, which is the petition to end early and forced marriage, which in itself is a major barrier to girls' education, and one that Plan is working so hard to try and stop. We all know that Malala was shot in the head simply because she was going to school. And by a dreadful coincidence, this took place 2 days before the first ever UN International Day of the Girl. Plan had lobbied the UN for a long time to establish this International Day of the Girl, and finally we had it last year and we'll have it this year, as Malala lay in her hospital bed, close to death. So this week, we celebrate that Malala has gone back to school. It's a different continent, a different language, and of course she's lost all of her old school friends and many of her family. She's separated from them. But what a wonderful story that was this week, to see her going into school with her school books. So with this award, you are going to help Plan help girls, individual girls, into education so that they can fulfil all that wonderful potential that we know is there. So I'm very grateful, and on behalf of Plan, thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to say how moved I'd